Okay, so today what we're going to look at is how to write an equation for an exponential function from a table. And then next week or so, we'll look at, okay, if we look at a table, how can we tell if it's linear or quadratic or exponential? And then be able to write the function. So we're going to write this few things down here, and then we will go through some examples. So when we write an equation for an exponential function, the form that we're going to write it in is a times b to the x. And so we will figure out how to find a and that kind of thing. But let's talk about what these actually stand for. And then you may see that these actually are a little bit familiar to you. So when we're looking at a table of different values that are on this function, this is what these actually mean in terms of the table. So the a is your starting point, meaning when x equals 0. We've seen something similar to this when we did geometric sequences, and that's where we heard the term common ratio. And so this is what we're multiplying by each time to get from one to the next, or what ratio as we increase in our x, what are we multiplying by to get our y values. Alright, so today we're just going to look at ones that we already know are exponential, and then later we'll look at how do we determine for sure, is it linear or is it exponential, is it quadratic, by looking at the table. Alright, so first of all, when we do this, we need to be able to identify A and be able to identify B, and then write the function. So A comes from when x is 0. So here's when we can find our A. So when x is 0, my f of x is 3, so that means my A is 3. So that's pretty easy on finding the A. Then, to find what my B is, we need to look at the ratio. So x is increasing by 1 each time. And then we need to figure out what this is increasing by. This is not linear. I'm not finding out what I'm adding by to get to the next term. I'm finding out what I'm multiplying by. So to do that, I need to divide. So I could use any of these. So here I would take 12 divided by 3. And that's 4. Or 48 divided by 12. Or 192 divided by 48. All of those are going to give you 4. So 4 over 1, because it is a ratio of this over this, what you're multiplying by over those differences in those x's. So 4 over 1 is 4. So to write my function, it's going to be 3 times 4 to the x. And that's the answer. It is not 12 to the x. This is wrong. You cannot multiply the 3 and the 4 together because the 4 is being raised to an exponent. Go back to PEMDAS. We do exponents before we do multiplication. So this is how we leave the answer to that. So let's look at another one. All right, so here, when I look, I can find my A right here. So my A is 6. And then these are all increasing by 1. So all I need to do is figure out what am I dividing by here. So I could pick any two. It doesn't matter which two, as long as I already know that they're exponential. And for today, we do know that they're exponential. So if I take 1.5 divided by 0.375, if I use those two, I get 4. If I take 6 divided by 1.5 and I use those two, I get 4. All right. If I do 24 divided by 6, that's 4. 96 divided by 24 is 4. So that means, again, my b is 4. So my function is going to be 6 times 4 to the x. Right, now let's look at one from a graph and see, could we figure out what the equation is from a graph? Well, if we can do it from a table, we can do it from a graph. So if I know some points that are on that graph, I'm going to list them like I would in a table. So this one would be -2, 8. This one is -1, 4. And then 0, 2. All right, so here we can see what our A is. So A is 2. And then when we divide, 4 divided by 8 is 0.5 or 1/2. 2 divided by 4, 0.5. We use that. You can write 1/2 or 0.5. That's your choice. So this would be 2 times 0.5. I'm going to put that in parentheses just so we don't get confused. Sorry, can't see that on these dots here I've got. Or you can write it like this. That would be your choice. And again, we know that b is between 0 and 1, so this should be decreasing here. Now, Wednesday, we'll look at, okay, maybe what if they don't give me what a is? I don't know when x is 0. How can I figure that out? But for today, we will be given that and be able to do that. So message me any questions you have. Bye.